Hey everybody. So the long-awaited video, we finally got the pattern made up. Patterns. A long time ago we took apart a vintage peasant bag. It's like 50s, 60s, 70s, very popular style. These were actually kits by Craft Tool or Barry Stolman. A lot of people made kits for these style bags. And what they are is just simply three main pieces that you punch holes in and you lace together. So we took one apart and we modified it, and that's this big one. But we want to do something special. We wanted to make a pattern pack that's like really gives you everything that you need to just go wild with it. So Kaylina made a smaller one as well. And I think this one is going to be the more popular one because it's for a more modern size. Like we don't have, back in the 60s they were carrying full wallets, checkbooks, everything. This is nice and small. So we're going to make this one on screen, but the pattern pack comes with both sizes. It's pretty much our biggest pattern pack I think we've ever made. It's a lot of pages, and you got to stick things together, but I'm going to show you how to put the pattern together, and then we're going to make one of these. These are very, very simple. So just a quick explanation of the pattern. This is how the pattern's going to come when you print it out. Now, anything with a dotted line is an overlap that we're going to overlap another piece to make a bigger piece. Anything without an overlap, basically just these two pieces, these are just going to be their own pieces. So I'm going to get these cut out. We're just cutting out the solid lines, and then I'm going to show you how to punch a few holes and get your registration right so that you can tape the pieces together and get perfect large pieces that we can then trace and cut out in leather. So a good idea is to use a punch that is 1/16 bigger than the lace you're going to use. We're going to use 1/4 inch lace, so I'm using a 3/16 inch punch. And this is going to be our whole side gusset. So I'm not going to punch all my holes yet. What I am going to do is I'm going to punch out the holes on the inside of this dotted line. And what that's going to allow me to do is to overlap them, make sure that they're all lined up, and that'll give us a perfectly lined up full pattern when we tape them together. Once these are cut and punched, because this is basically the only straight piece in the entire thing, I'm going to use the line on my cutting board. And then what you can do is you can overlap, and you're basically trying to match you want the holes to line up, you want the dotted lines to be close, they don't have to be perfect. And the good thing about this pattern too is that you have so much room for error. If your holes are a little off, if your lacing's a little off, it's all going to just meld together and look great. That's the whole point of this style. So I'm just using some packing tape. Put a little bit on each side, and we have our full pattern piece. Easy as pie. So once you have the pattern all cut out, I just use my hole punch to punch the holes out. Well, Kaylina punched the holes out. And that way you don't have to just punch every little hole with a scratch awl and hope everything's centered. It'll get it all centered for you. Then basically all we have to do is trace all these pieces out of leather. We are using a new leather from Newbury Leathers called Tortoise. This is the copperhead color. And I picked this because here's a vintage laced pouch from like the 60s or 70s. And you can see the color is pretty much, it's not dead on, but it's very close. This is a nice vintagey looking leather. It's got nice pull up, but it's not super stretchy. It's chrome tanned, but it's still firm. This is about, we got a thickness gauge. I've never had one of these before. It is 5.5 ounces. So it's their 5/6 ounce. This stuff is really nice for bags like this. So we're going to use this for the whole bag, and then I got some Latigo for the strap that is a little bit thicker. And all I'm going to do is kind of cut out a little sliver here for this piece. I already have the rest cut out. And I'll show you the easiest way to go about cutting this pattern piece. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my maul and put it right there in the middle. If you have two mauls, you can put them like that. This is a long piece. Here, I'll have to work the sun a little bit there. So we want to make sure it stays put. And the first thing I'm going to do is trace around the outside. Now, the reason I'm showing you this, obviously, I know you guys know how to trace patterns, but with the holes, it's a little bit different because we basically have, a few dozen 3/16 inch holes to put into this pattern before we are ready to assemble it. So all I'm going to do before I cut it out is I'm going to go in with my hole punch and I'm just going to go in. It's not rocket science or anything, but I used to, for some reason I got into the habit when I used to make some lace totes, and I would trace every single one with a scratch awl. It's kind of like a duh moment when I was like, oh, I should probably just use the hole punch to make the little marks. So you're going to have 2 sets of marks here. The outside holes are going to be for lacing the bag together. These inside holes, these 4, these are going to be for attaching your strap, your shoulder strap, because this is kind of a shoulder crossbody type thing. See? So we can see all of our holes, super easy. So I'm just going to kind of work down the line, and then we'll get everything cut out. Before we punch the holes, though, we're going to do our edging, because it's just a little, with these it's not that big of a deal, but the sooner you can do your edging on a bag like this, before you punch all these holes and make it a little bit floppy, it's just easier. So we'll do the edging, we'll cut out the piece, we'll do the edge, and then we'll punch all the holes. And here we go. So this is our whole bag, believe it or not, the whole body, all punched out. And now all we need to do is cut some lace. We're going to use a strap cutter, which is in the other room, I'll go get it, to cut 1/4 inch lace. So if you're using 3/16 inch holes, 1/4 inch lace is what you want to cut. And then we'll start assembling this whole bag. Well, the strap cutter wasn't liking that, so we're just going to do it freehand. I'm going to put a straight edge on one side of this chunk of leather that I cut out, and this is the same Tortoise tannage that we made the bag out of, in the same weight, 5/6 ounce. I just don't come out of blades for the strap cutter, so I can't. The blade's not sharp enough to cut that thin. Now with lace, especially lace like this, you don't have to worry if this isn't super straight, because we're going to be, if you look at this one, which is an original one, this lace is going to get twisted and turned and worn, and you're never going to notice if you have little squiggly lines in your lace. So don't go too crazy with it. This is a long straight line to cut, and those aren't the easiest. So now it's assembly time, and what you're going to do is cut one end of your lace to a point like this, and we are going to go, you can do this 2 ways. You can do it overlapping the front with the gusset, or overlapping the gusset with the front. Both are historically accurate to the style. We're going to do it with the front overlapping the gusset. I think it looks a little more clean and modern, but doing it with the gusset overlapping the front and the back makes it look very sort of bohemian peasant looking. You can secure this in a couple different ways, and I'm going to show you those different ways. But for now, we're just going to leave that as it is. And all we're going to do is lace up this whole side. There's not really much to it. In and out, in and out. And the amount of holes that we have in the pattern, which is the one tricky part of making a pattern like this, we'll make sure that it ends inside the bag every time. So once we have everything laced up, you can see we're starting to already get the shape of our bag. Now, we need to kind of tie these off. You can do this a couple ways. The first way is you can just tie a simple knot and you're good to go. This is how Kayleen and I do it. That stays there, and we just cut that right off there, and that's it. And that is how this vintage piece is done. You can kind of see on the inside there, all knots. The other way to do it, like the bag we took apart on video a few months back that started this whole journey to make this pattern, is you're basically going to, once you have everything stitched up, you're going to back off the top stitch a little bit, and then you're going to pull this stitch and basically just weave this under here and then tighten everything up. You want to make sure everything's laying flat. So it'll go like that. Then once we have it pulled through, we're going to tighten that up. We're going to tighten this up like that, and then pull that through. Now, since I'm using chrome tan leather, that works well with veg tan. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm sure it wouldn't come out on chrome tan. But with chrome tan leather, it's just so darn easy to tie a knot, and it gets super tight. That's what I'm going to do on this bag. So on the front piece, we're actually not going to tie knots here. We want to leave enough lace. We're going to actually attach our strap with this same piece of lace so that we don't have a ton of knots up here. So we're going to end up bringing this down here and tying a second knot here, but you want to give yourself a good, 8 or 9 inches to a foot of lace. That's the only difference if you're going with the knot method. If you're going with the tucking method, I would use veg tan, and I would soak the lace before you use it, and it'll kind of wet mold the lace. And that kind of secures that tucking method a little bit better. And over time, the nice thing is about this design, as you use it, and I've used a lace bag like this 5 years straight. I'll show it at the end of the video, but it gets tighter. It doesn't, a lot of people are worried the lacing is going to come out. It actually does the opposite. All the weight pulls this lace super tight. So you'll see a lot of the vintage bags, these knots will be like 3 inches out. On the fourth hole of the front, we're going to attach our strap. Now this is optional. If you want to do a different style of closure, go for it, but the strap is included. We're going to include a straight strap and this nice curved strap Kaylina designed. It has 2 separate curves, and it looks really beautiful and kind of adds a very modern touch to such a classic design. So I'm going to use that one because I really love it. And all we're going to do is just add that to the pile. So you can tell when you kind of stack everything together where it fits, but it's the 4th hole down into the 5th hole down. Yep. Like this. And here we go. So this is the whole bag laced up, and it's very cool. This Tortoise tannage takes a stamp super nice, and I think the combination of the dark brown with the black edge, it's really going to give us that vintagey look that we're looking for. So I did leave the tails of the lace long. This is how we're going to attach our crossbody strap, but if we stick these in the bag and tuck the flap under, we can get a little peek at what the bag's going to look like in the end. And this is such a nice size. I think Kaylina really killed it on this. So we're going to be using a strap that we got from Buckleguy. They sell a lot of their leathers and straps, and we didn't have any Latigo. I wanted to make the strap out of something a little bit thicker. So this is 10 ounce Newbury Leathers Latigo. I think it's their dark brown color or the red. Either one. It's basically just a traditional Latigo color. And a lot of the times with these bags, the strap obviously would age quicker because you're touching it. So we went with like two or three shades darker on the strap itself. And it's actually, now that I'm seeing it, going to be a nice blend between this lighter color, this lighter brown, and the black edge. So I'm really excited about that. This is a 1-inch strap, and it's just going to be really easy for us to make this crossbody because we don't have to do any cutting. It comes perfectly at 1 inch, and we don't have to buy a whole hide of 10 ounce Latigo that we don't need. So I'm going to bevel these edges because this is the tactile part of the piece, right? This is the part that you're going to be touching and holding a lot. So we want it to feel really nice and smooth. And then all we have to do really is, if you want to, I'm going to dye the edges because that's the vibe we have going, but you don't have to do that. Sand and burnish them. And then we'll pick out a strap end punch shape. And then I'll show you how to lace them. So once we have everything taken care of with the strap, I'm just going to take our gusset pattern here, and we need these 4 holes. So just center it on your strap and trace your 4 holes. Now you can also, if you want to rivet this, you don't have to use these holes. You can put your own holes and do brass or copper rivets or anything you want. But this is if you want to lace it in an X pattern like traditionally it was done with these bags. I'm going to get both of these X's done before I tie anything off. So, very important, make sure your whole strap is oriented the way that you want it, meaning there's no like twists in it before you put the other side on. Also, if you're using this Newbury Leathers Latigo, make sure it's facing right side out because the back is finished really, really nicely. and it's easy to accidentally use it flipped over the wrong way because it kind of feels the same on both sides. Before we tie everything off, all I'm going to do is just a quick check. Put our flap in, make sure it's the right length that we want, and it is looking good to me. So again, I'm just going to go with those same knots that we used on the front half. Or on the back half. See anything, it's impossible. And here we go. So this is the final product. The X's look fantastic, the back is nice and simple, and when we open it up we have a big pouch, and that's it. That's historically what these things were. So realistically, with the pattern it takes about an hour to make one, and you end up with such a substantial product that it's really cool, and I think Kaylina did a fantastic job designing the pattern. It looks fantastic, and like I said before, the smaller size really makes it a little more modern. But this feels like an infomercial. But wait, there's more. In the pattern pack, we also made the big one. This is a replica, not a straight replica, but we did a video where we took one of these apart that was from the 60s, and we looked at how it was made. And we said we would be putting out a pattern, and it just took a long time, but you guys never stopped asking for it. You guys were very kind, and we're happy that we got both of them done. And we decided to just put it in one pattern pack so you can get both sizes. This one is like 9 by 8.5, and it's 4 inches at the gusset. This one's I think what 2.5 or 3 inches at the gusset.
I think it's 2.
2. So it's smaller, but it holds a lot still.
Yeah.
But the pattern pack's going to come with both, and they both take probably about an hour and a half to make. They're super fun. Great beginner project, but also great project for any level. You can tool, where's the old one? You can get some stamps and tool all sorts of little patterns. I've actually never owned tooling stamps before, and I went out and bought flowers and stuff because I want to make a few of these for my family members. Yeah, it's just a super fun piece to make. So thank you guys so much for watching. Pattern's in the description, and we'll see you in the next one.